The House attempts to install a speaker one more time. The effort to put in Patrick, give me McLiberty or give me McDeath, McHenry failed as well. So we'll give Jim Jordan another try. Matt Gaetz had this to say about the effort to creatively leave the speakership to an interim figure like McHenry for a time before figuring out who actually is going to lead the House and the Republican caucus by extension.
So what do you think about this resolution to empower McHenry?
I think that I'm against Speaker Light. I'm against Bud Light. I believe it is a constitutional desecration to not elect a Speaker of the House. We need to stay here until we elect a Speaker. And if someone can't get the votes, we need to go on to the next person. But twisting and torturing the Constitution to empower a temporary speaker is having a Speaker Light that is not constitutionally contemplated, is deeply infirm, and I will do everything possible to stop it.
Gaetz should take a page out of the Framers book and actually have a plan when he thinks about trying to accomplish something.
There was one congressman in Florida who said, I'm a veteran. If you blow up a bridge, you better have another bridge that you need to cross ready to go.
Or another way to get across.
Right, come on.
So McCarthy was asked about apparently some chippiness between him and Gaetz in caucus as the discussion of what to do about the vacancy proceeded. Listen to McCarthy's characterization of what happened and where the caucus is vis-a-vis Gaetz and the hateful eight.
Specifically what happened with Matt Gaetz? Did you yell?
Oh, no. I was at the mic, I was speaking, and Matt Gaetz tried to interrupt, and so I told him to sit down, and he sat down.
What's your deal?
I told him to sit down. I think the entire conference screamed at him. People are, listen, the whole country, I think, would scream at Matt Gaetz right now. Remember, it was a crazy eights led by Matt Gaetz and every single Democrat that put us into this situation. We've never been in this situation before, but how do you have 4% of your conference remove a speaker when 96% are there? This is why we're here. He had no plan afterwards. Now we have Israel at a war, questions whether Congress can act, questions where we'd be able to go to select a new speaker. I mean, it's a difficult situation driven by one person for his own personal beliefs, his own animosity towards me, and his concern about what's inside an ethics complaint that was filed before I was even Speaker.
And that has given way to splintering in all sorts of different directions, including by moderates and Biden in districts Biden won, who are afraid that Jim Jordan is too much of an iconoclast, and that'll somehow redound to their political detriment if they support Jim Jordan for Speaker. I think that's a stretch. That sounds very insular and parochial and not very persuasive, even electorally, even the electoral argument. You have people that are just upset that McCarthy was deposed, and they don't want to essentially rectify the situation with a Scalise or with a Jim Jordan or with somebody else and allow Gaetz and company off the hook. So some adult-like behavior is going to have to give way at some point, one thinks, but one could be wrong. For more on this and other topics, Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, weekdays 5 p.m. Chicago time. He's also the best-selling author of the just-released To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment. We could use a man like George Washington today. Bret Baier, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
So where do you have the this situation in the House, the prospect that Jim Jordan can put together the necessary votes, or if he can't, what happens from here?
It's up in the air. It really is. I hate to have no answer, but I have no answer. Last time we counted, he is well short, not just around the corner short. He is well short. And so he says he's going to continue to go, that there's not another, candidate that can get as many votes as he has. But Democrats are not breaking away to help him or the Republicans unless there's some kind of Empower McHenry deal that Democrats could see as possibly moving bipartisan legislation forward. And the Republican caucus said no yesterday. So we are where we are, and I think that you're going to have multiple votes. Remember, it took 15 for McCarthy. I could see, in the high teens here.
Well,
Do you know what? Do you know what the concessions are that are being demanded in order, among the dozen and a half to 2 dozen members? Like, are they? Is there? Does it essentially circle around 1 or 2 big things, or is it just everybody's got their own bill of particulars?
It's more of the potpourri of being upset, whether it is Jim Jordan and the tactics that were used at the beginning, calling up or texting the wife of Congressman Don Bacon, or then there's other people who think he's too caustic, and then there's other people who say there are other folks who should lead the caucus and be speaker. The bottom line is that they can't circle the wagons, and there just are not enough leaders in this caucus to do it. And because they have this motion to vacate with the one person, which is how it all happened with Matt Gaetz and then 7 others, it is untenable. And right now we don't see an end to it.
Well, what about Patrick McHenry's? Will he be elevated to temporary speaker while they try and figure this out?
Well, he is temporary speaker currently. The question is, what kind of power does he have? He doubts he has power to bring forward legislation. The legal question is, we've never been here before. So if he registered any bill as Speaker of the House, would that bill therefore be challenged or challengeable in court on every front? And the people who are against this say it would constitutionally.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch with all of the Trump trials in procession, we have news yesterday out of Fulton County, Georgia, that the Kraken has entered into a plea agreement with prosecutors. Sidney Powell is going to plead out to 6 misdemeanors and pay some fines and say she's sorry, and agree to testify truthfully against her co-defendants in exchange for not going to prison. How big a deal is her plea agreement?
I think it's a decent size, big deal. I think that in all of these cases, the threat to the former president that everybody else, wakes up and says, I'm not doing this, and decides that they're going to testify against him, despite the fact that they had a big role in advising him or moving forward. All of these prosecutors want to put him in the target. I think that, for Georgia, this moves the case forward. But remember, there's 18 other defendants.
But she has to write this goofy apology letter to the people of Georgia, which is strange. But do you think she's going to, at some point in time, testify against President Trump?
I think they would not have given her the deal unless she agreed.
Yeah, of course. Of course, but
she didn't plead guilty to racketeering conspiracy. So
she pled out. The whole point is she pled out so that they could flip her for these. But the thing here is what you were getting at, Brett, is, if I'm Trump, we have no idea what their conversations were. I have no idea. But she's the lawyer. She's the one at press conferences with Giuliani and Meadows, particularly Giuliani, released the Kraken and all of the histrionics and so on and so forth. So if I'm Trump, she's my lawyer. She's supposed to be the election law expert. She's the one that was devising the strategy, and to the extent I went along with it is because I thought she was knowledgeable about the law and saw a legal strategy that was legitimate for us to pursue.
Yeah, and that's the advice of the lawyers. And so I think that's the case that they're going to make. I just think that it's all going to add up and string this out for some of these defendants to testify against him.
On the other side of the House, of course, this is not talked about or covered by just about anybody except for perhaps you. We found out that the White House, that Joe Biden, I should say, was interviewed by 2 days by the special counsel investigating Biden's alleged mishandling of classified information. This happened earlier this month. And we also have Jim Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, putting together a new timeline on the classified documents in the possession of the current president that does not comport with the timeline that was offered up by his attorneys. In fact, the timeline of concern about classified documents in the possession of the current president, I should say, starts a year and a half before the timeline that was offered up by his attorneys. Now, we know the DOJ posture is that we're not going to indict an incumbent president that we wouldn't have done with Trump. We're not going to do it with Biden. But the timeline and the veracity of Biden and his lawyers is certainly relevant, so people know exactly what happened with his handling of the classified documents, since we have a Trump trial forthcoming on the same topic.
Yeah, and listen, there's some kind of big development. We just don't know what exactly that is yet, as Comer, puts together his investigation. But remember that these documents are taken from the SCIF in the U.S. Senate, as he's Senator Joe Biden, which has never happened. And any of his colleagues, even Democratic colleagues, will say that's really bizarre. And as vice president, where he never had any capability to declassify anything. So it's a different, it's not animal, one-on-one to the Trump situation. So it is something that, is getting overlooked, but this potentially is a problem too.
Yesterday's speech from President Biden on Israel and Ukraine, nicely tying together the two countries for in terms of advancing the case for supporting both. Do you see, but J.D. Vance and a couple of others notwithstanding, do you see any real resistance coming from Congress to move along aid to both Israel and Ukraine relatively quickly?
Other than not having a Speaker of the House?
other than that, since they can't even pass a resolution in the House supporting Israel. Yeah, other than that.
They can't really do anything. So, no, I think eventually they'll fall in line. I do think that there's some pushback that the president could have delivered this speech any day in the 600 days of the Ukraine war, and he didn't. He chose this moment to piggyback on what's happening in Israel, and I think that hit some people the wrong way. Other people, said that this is a moment to instruct the American people where their attention is at terrorism, and that's why he's intertwining Hamas and Putin. There was a lot of Ukraine in that speech, though.
A lot.
There sure was.
And Brit Hume raved about it. He thought it was one of his finest moments, and I thought he sounded very weak and that the teleprompter was mixed up because he kept going from Israel to Ukraine back to Israel, and it was hard to follow.
Well, Dana Perino's going to hold his hand, and they're going to watch it together again.
She's going to hold. That's right.
It was really good. I was surprised at Brit's reaction. However, he did say it was Joe Biden's best speech. He hasn't had too many big speeches.
It's one of those tallest skyscraper in Wichita kind of compliments. Bret Baier is the host of Fox News Special Report, 5 p.m. weekdays, Chicago time. Best-selling author of the just-released To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile Experiment. Pick that up as well. Bret, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Bret, real quick, how was your event at Northwestern?
Oh, it was good. It was good. A nice little turnout. My brother-in-law came, and it was good. We started the week, obviously it's tough to have a book launch during this world news, but we started at number 4 in the New York Times bestseller list. And I'm in Dallas currently getting ready for a number of events here today.
Good for you.
All right, chop, chop. We'll look for you at the top of the charts.
You got it. We'll see you.
We predicted it here. And Bret Baier joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At TJ Stern's Financial Planning in Arlington Heights, we offer several complimentary reports proactive investors should take advantage of before year end. Our Social Security Optimization Report shows couples how to possibly get